Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Okay, so I've got something to say. And on today's episode, I'm so excited about this one. This is one probably as soon as God gave me the idea of this almost a year ago. This was one of the things that came up aside from Reed's stunt that I was the most excited to get to talk about. Um, my heart is fully involved in this one. So, anyways, today I get to share this episode with my gorgeous aunt who has always been, we've always had a great close relationship anyways. Who knew that one day we were going to be bonded by such a wonderful thing as this. But so today's topic, just to give an understanding of what's going on, today's topic is going to be on outliving your own child. And I think it's going to be a heavy topic. I think it's going to be a much needed conversation for people. And I really just want to pray really fast before we actually dive deep into what all we're going to be discussing in this episode. So first of all, Aunt Robin, say hi so people can hear your voice.
Hello, I'm here, finally.
And let me just do a really quick prayer and then we'll go ahead and get started on some topics.
Sounds good.
Father God, I just thank you for this opportunity to have this conversation with my gorgeous aunt and to speak on this sensitive but needed topic. Lord, we just pray that there would be a comfort that comes out of the airways on this conversation, that there would be just divine intervention for all ears that hear it, Lord God, that it would speak peace to some, that it would give insight to others, Father God, but that it would just be a way to bring healing to somebody's life, Father. Lord, I pray that we honor our family members that we're going to talk about and that you would just go before us in this conversation. And I thank you in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Got something in my eye. So as I said, this conversation is going to be on the hard topic of outliving your own child. It's definitely not supposed to be that way in the order of things.
Not what I expected.
Right. No parent wants to outlive their child or experience this kind of thing. Today, it's going to be, just since we're moms, we're going to talk about it from the perspective of mommies. I know that dads feel it and go through their own stuff as well, and that sort of thing, but we're going to talk about it from our position and standpoint. And I really just want this conversation to be about understanding that not all grief is created equal.
That's true.
When it comes to your child, grief doesn't actually ever go away.
Nope.
And how to help somebody, how you can actually help somebody and be there for somebody in grief or loss. And so I have a term that I use for other moms that have gone through it, just as an identifier. I call them angel mommies because we have them there. I hate the word lost. I don't know about you, but I hate when people say, oh, she lost her kid, like misplaced them somewhere. I don't know a better word to give it. But I hate that word lost. Like, I wish we could come up with something else.
Or death. I don't like that either.
I just hate it. Like, I don't know. I don't know what words to come up with, but
past. So that's what I say.
I say past as well. So anyways, first, let's just get into the hard stuff. So you unfortunately have lost two of yours. We had back to back really quick. So I'm going to let you just say how long it's been since first Kyle and then Shane. You don't have to go super deep, just how long it's been since you've been part of this world.
Okay. Actually, it was April of 2009. I lost my 19-year-old. I had a very healthy boy. God gave me a healthy one. And as I found out and didn't know when we buried him, how and why he died. The autopsy and the Um, Toxicology was fine, nothing. So I felt like at least I'm giving a good child, a healthy child back. The only thing that they could come up with is that he had a seizure in his sleep from a medication that a doctor had given him. Um, so when you bury a child and you don't know why, that's tough. And the sad part is, when I went into his room that day and he was laying there with his iPod earphones in his ear, I I thought he had a smile on his face, but I thought something was wrong, and I had grabbed the cell phone because back then, anyway, I grabbed the house phone and called 911, and he had been gone for a while. So as I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for the officers and everybody to show up, it smelled in his room like alcohol, like or old perfume. And so I assumed that maybe he drank and died of alcohol poisoning, which was so bad on my part. I regret that to this day. So anyway, actually, it took a long time for them to do the toxicology report. But anyway, we buried him, and we have three boys. They are very far apart in age. Kyle was the youngest at 19. At that time, we had a 27-year-old, 26 or 7-year-old. And so it's been 11 years for Kyle and 10 years, like 9.5 years for Shane. Shane had a very difficult time dealing with the loss of his brother. Shane went down a rough road, and by that I mean addiction, which I don't even like to focus on that because he was a brilliant child. And we lost him at 28, a year and a half after Kyle. When we got Kyle's place where he was going to lay to rest, I said to my husband, we need to get two. And we both agreed. We just, a gut, call it what you want. So anyway, they are buried, I call it like bunk beds, and my husband and I will be buried right next to them. So it's been a long time for the two of us having to bear this.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we had a older son, so I had three sons. Fortunately, he's married, has a beautiful child, gave us a beautiful grandson, and I worry about him as a mom would. I hurt for him almost more than myself, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm. Um, I remember at Kyle's funeral because as I lost Christy in '94, um, which just astonishes me at how long it's been.
I know.
Um, but I remember at Kyle's funeral having the desire of if there is any way that I can will you or give you my strength in
Mhm.
that moment that I wanted to. And I just remember I sat directly behind you by 2 rows and I stayed the whole time. I said I wasn't leaving until the last person had been there and had their moments and conversations with you and all that other stuff. And it was this whole desire in me of, I just knew what you were going through and I wanted to
Mhm.
give all of me to you. That being
That's sweet.
said, at Shane's funeral, I almost could not even look at you because I was in awe of you and Uncle Jim. And also I just was like, I didn't know how you were there. I understood it at Kyle's, but
Mhm.
at Shane's, I was like, this is more than one should. And
Hmm.
so that being said, that kind of makes me go into what I want to talk about next or coming up. And with this, I want to just preface it with, this is to be said so that people understand, not to make people feel bad or
No,
shame anybody or anything else. It's really, I really want people to understand behaviors and words and what they can and do,
absolutely.
do for people, because I just think of what I felt and what I've still felt after all these years, that have hurt and broke my heart in ways that I wish that people understood. And so I think of the next mom, because unfortunately, this will happen to somebody else.
Right.
And if, with that, I mean having to bury their own child, having to draw breath after their child doesn't. And so I want other people to hear it and understand how to help, how to be more supportive, what they can do, what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And
Hmm.
so I just want to talk about that without feeling like we're shaming anybody or guilting anything. I just
No,
want
no,
to have
no.
honest conversations of what my notes say is what things people say or do that they need to stop ASAP. Like now,
Right.
stop it now. Don't do this anymore. And one of the things that I just cringe every time I hear is when somebody says, "I'm so sorry. I know what you're going through," when
Hmm.
they've
Hmm.
not ever buried a child.
Hmm.
Um, loss of a parent or loss of a spouse or sibling or dog or whatever is not the same as
No,
burying your child, drawing a breath longer than your own child does. It's not the same. Don't try and make it the same, because they are not. They are not. They are not. As you know,
no.
as you've lost
Right.
grandma and grandpa, I've only lost my dad. I've not lost my mom. So I understand loss of a parent or a father. I don't understand the loss of a mom, but it is not the same as burying your own child.
Not at all.
So, another thing that people said that just was a kick in the gut was, they're in a better place.
Yeah.
How in the heck anybody thinks that that's a comforting thing to say to a parent?
Hmm.
There is no better place than in my arms.
No.
What are you
Right.
talking about? Even though
Right.
we know of heaven, and
Right.
even though we believe that that's where they're at, and even though we love, trust, and serve a heavenly Father, please stop looking at a parent and saying they're in a better place when the best place is with us.
Hmm.
People need to stop saying that.
Right.
Um, God or heaven needed another angel.
I've heard that.
No, they don't. No, he doesn't. No,
Hmm.
stop saying that.
Or he
He
takes
doesn't.
the best.
Huh?
Or he takes the best.
Oh gosh,
Have you
yes.
heard that?
He only takes the best, yes. Or I was told with Christy, because she was so young, God spared her from something worse.
You know, it's funny you say that because I've said that to myself before. Like, how do we know that one of them wasn't gonna, whatever? And that is so wrong, you
Yeah.
know?
I think it's ways that we just like the brain is trying to
Yeah,
reconcile it all.
yeah,
But at the same time, for a parent, for a mom,
right.
these things need to stop being said, because
Mhm,
no matter what, just like I was a young mom and Christy was a young child when she passed, or whatever the situation is in other people's lives, whether it be a tragic car accident or an addiction or whatever, no matter, us as moms,
mhm,
there's no better, safer place than here with us, right?
right,
So we can protect, love, take care of, even though we know some things are out of our control. When we have a death of our child, don't say that stuff to us.
right.
And not, you don't always need words, right? Like,
Mhm,
sit there, just sit there and
right.
don't say anything.
There's another one, Connie, that somebody told me, actually a few people, that I was just blown away. Nobody has ever said it to me, and hopefully not you, and that is, okay, they've been gone, X amount of time now. You should be done with your mourning or your sadness or move on. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen.
So that is actually, yeah, something else that I have written down in my notes to talk about. And I actually had, so for me, um, because grief is difficult for everybody, including family, and especially when we all don't know how to respond and all that other stuff. So everybody, I do believe, is trying to do the best they can and navigate through it. However, what some people don't understand is because they've never ever experienced burying their own child,
Hmm.
is that they don't understand what grief is, looks like, or
Hmm.
feels like. And so people say stuff they shouldn't say. And that's so what I would like for people to understand is don't talk about the things you don't know.
Right.
And that's not an insult to you. It's
No,
don't talk
you're
about
lucky.
things you don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah. And instead, I think that people just want to offer comfort and they think if they
that's
see
right.
something that it's comforting. And the truth of it is, especially for a mom
Hmm.
grieving her child, you speaking is not comforting.
Right.
Just sit next to me. Just
Right.
be quiet. Just be here so I'm not alone, but don't talk.
Hmm.
Especially if you've not ever buried your own child, just be with
Hmm.
us. Just sit down
Hmm.
and be in the uncomfortable,
Show them
agonizing.
love.
Yep.
Hmm.
And what people need to understand is, especially grief of a child, is it never goes away. And here's the reason
No.
why. This is not because we don't want to let it go, but the thing is well, we've outlived them, so we have more things to keep grieving because as every day, year goes by that they're not with us, there's something
Right.
else to grieve. But also, for example, Christy was 2.5 when she passed. So I could only grieve the loss of a 2.5-year-old child.
Hmm.
As I have had more children, 2 other kids, and am watching them grow up and experience things. I've had to grieve, or even with my own nieces
Right.
and nephews and stuff, you see stuff and you understand there are things you're missing.
Right.
And so you have to grieve that. So I've missed first days of school and
Absolutely.
bra shopping and all things like that, relationships, and
Right.
eventually weddings and children, and there's things that I continue to grieve. We only can grieve what we're aware of, and then something will come up and you realize, oh, I'm never going to get that,
Right.
and then
Right.
you have to grieve that. And it's not that we're not living in the present, in being happy with our life. It's not about that, but it is understanding that there is something that's not, that we should have been experiencing. And so we have to allow the body to go
Right.
through it and let the mind process it and give those emotions to the situation. Because I'll tell you, Christy was only alive for 2.5 years, but she deserves every ounce of
Right.
my acknowledgement for the rest of my life while I'm grieving.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And so it's okay that I still think of her on a daily, whether
Hmm.
I say her name out loud or not. Every single day something crosses my mind that makes
That's
me think of,
true.
yeah, and so you have to allow those things to happen. So people need to stop analyzing what they think that they have no knowledge of, which is how long grief should last or where somebody should be in the healing process. Because the truth of it is, it doesn't go away. We just learn how to adapt and live with it. You
That's
just
right.
live with it. And yes, there is joy. You can find joy again, even
Hmm.
after the loss of a child.
Hmm.
Um, but it's different. Everything is different. Everything tastes different, sounds different, smells different after you've buried a
Your
child.
whole outlook, your whole
Yes,
on
completely
everything.
different. Um, People should stop having conversations with other people about how they think we're handling things or where we should
Hmm.
be in the process, right? Like stop,
Right.
just stop. Because again, it's always evolving. But sometimes in the worst of the days, like in the very beginning, you find something to have that you laugh about, a memory or something. And so we'll laugh if you
Right.
remember. And then there's such a horrible guilt from laughing.
Mhm.
that it spirals into other things. And so people need
Or
to,
celebrating, Connie.
oh,
Celebrating's a hard, birthdays, Christmas. It,
yes.
it, it takes
It feels like
years,
a
literally.
betrayal. It
It
feels like
does.
a betrayal. Yeah. Um, but people, if they want to belong in support, in love of a parent who's lost a child, they need to understand what that roller coaster ride is going to look like. And if you're going to say yes to sign up, that means go with it. So that means
Mm,
like, and literally, can't you just go through every ounce of the feeling of grief in a matter of seconds and it just constantly spins, especially in the
yeah.
beginning?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, it's just crazy. And so, like, I just want people to understand, don't judge it or analyze it because you don't understand it.
Right.
And the truth of it is, as long as you don't have a parent standing graveside being like, it's fine. I'm fine. The world is fine. They're dealing.
Right.
I promise
hmm
you they're dealing. As long as you don't see that response, they are dealing, and let them deal in their way. Don't tell them how to do it.
No, I agree. And there's no timeline. It may take me, like with Kyle, we didn't celebrate Christmas until Deegan, my grandson, came along. I never pulled out the ornaments because, all the boys made homemade ornaments in school. I was not pulling them out. I didn't for Kyle, and we didn't for Shane. Well, we did for Shane because of Deegan, but it was not our stuff. We went and got a little tree, and their birthdays, we go to graveside, do something. Uh, Not so much anymore, only because I'm not really sure. I just don't get a bunch together anymore. It's been 11 and 9.5 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Um, so there's one thing that I want to read really fast, and this will go into my next point. So I read this book and I didn't realize it until I was reading it. But anyways, it's called Eat Cake, Be Brave by Melissa Radke, and she's got a podcast, and her husband do Facebook Lives every day, and she I don't know if she actually had a career in Nashville singing or if she was trying to. She's very funny. But anyways, her and her husband suffered lots of I want to say they couldn't get pregnant or had some miscarriages, and then they finally conceived, and um, she delivered a son who she only had, I want to say like an hour and a half or 2 hours to
oh
celebrate
dear.
life with. But she has this book, and in it she says, one of the things she's talking about, she says, I have zero fear of death. I heard the late Elizabeth Edwards say that once. You have lost a child. Death has no hold over you and it doesn't frighten you. She was right. Let's just say that when it's time, I've got people there. She also said if you know someone who has lost a child and you're afraid to mention them because you think you might make them sad by reminding them that they died, you're not reminding them. They didn't forget they died. What you're reminding them of is that you remember that they lived, and that is a great gift.
Yeah.
And that is the next thing that I would love for people to understand and do, is people have that misconception of, oh, she looks happy, so we don't want to
hmm
bring up
You're right.
because that'll make them sad, or it's too hard. It's too hard, right? And I understand for family members, it's hard for them also. They're processing and going through grief and
That's right.
but let's just be real. Theirs
hmm
is not the same as ours. They lost a cousin or a niece, nephew, or brother, sister, and that doesn't negate it that it's not of value and that it doesn't hurt them by any means. But being the parent, to be surrounded by other people that never talk about your child hurts.
It
I've
does.
been offended even
Yes.
where
It,
I'm
it,
like, excuse me, I love that we're always talking about your kids, but I want to talk about mine too. But I don't want to bring them up all the time or her up or him up all the time. We want somebody else to do that because you want them to know they thought of him on their own or her on their own, and that
right.
ask questions. Especially, I tell this to people that don't know any better. I love, the greatest gift you can give me is to ask me about my daughter, even if you're asking me how she died. the
Right.
greatest gift you can give me is allow me the opportunity to say her
Yes.
name and tell you, because her life had meaning, whether short or long, it had meaning, and she was mine, and I'm proud of her. The same as I am about my living, breathing children,
Right.
just as proud as my one that is no longer. And so ask us questions. Tell us your stories and memories that you have.
Or, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, or if I'm in a room and I say, oh, Shane or oh, Kyle used to like this or that, don't freeze on me. Go ahead, say what you want. It's okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's one of the greatest joys is to give us a
Yeah,
platform or open room to be able to say. Isn't
yeah,
there something about the way their name set feels out loud when you say it out loud?
absolutely. Oh my
It
goodness.
just
Yeah,
because thinking about them internally is one thing, but when you get to actually
yeah,
say their name, I mean, as a parent, this is what I want other people to understand. As a parent, think about it when you find out you're pregnant or you're going to have a baby or you're going to become a parent, you stress and you read all these name books and all
right,
these things and you bring it up and you're like, how does this sound? And you go through it because you're planning that perfect name for your child. Or once you lay eyes on them for the first time and you think, this is, and you name them, that name is precious. It has meaning. There's so much value to it.
right.
And when you don't get to say it out loud, it's hard. It hurts. Like
Hmm.
let us say their name. Let us say their
And
name.
I do. I don't
I do it
hesitate
all
at
the
all.
time. Do you know
Yeah.
that every time I've ever moved since Christy died, I've had to say her name in my house just so that I know that it came with me, like that I
That's
know what it
sweet.
sounds like here. What does
Hmm.
it sound like bouncing off the
Oh,
walls?
that's precious.
You just
Mm,
have to say it. But anyways, also like if they would just share their memories, you know what I mean? Like tell us your
right.
stories, especially if it's something we weren't around for, so we didn't know.
Yes.
It's you're giving us such a gift when you tell us something about our kid.
Or
For
you find a picture of them
yes,
and send it to me. Don't say, oh, I have it, but I'm afraid it. Please, it's like a gift,
yes, yes. It's a
especially if it's one I haven't seen.
yes, absolutely. Um, Here's one. This will be an uncomfortable one for some people to hear. Visit their gravesite.
Yes.
Uh, so in my old life, at the very first maybe year or two of being married, my ex would visit the gravesite with me upon my prompting and making it
Hmm.
happen, but never on their own. Can I tell you that the one way that I knew that Reed was who I was supposed to marry is just while we were dating, he would send me a picture, a text picture, or even when we first got married, he would send me a picture of her gravesite, and he'd say, "I was in the area, so I stopped to visit your girl today."
And see, that is a gift. That is a dozen flowers. Nothing compares to
Yes,
that. Yeah, I get it.
yes, it's
I get it.
amazing. Or ask us if you can come with us to the gravesite.
Right.
I
Right.
don't go to the gravesite all the time like I did when she first passed. I only go twice a year,
Uh-huh.
which is her birthday and anniversary, and it's more of a pay respect. I know that that's where her headstone is, but that's not where she is. I'm fully aware.
Right. Right.
But as a parent, when you have a child, like, well, first of all, there's holidays and birthdays and things like that that you buy them stuff, and then
That's
there's
right.
other times where it's like, oh, I know that she would love this or he would love this, so you grab it. When you've lost a child, you have no more opportunities.
That's
You
right.
you see stuff that are reminding you of them, and what do you do? Who do you give it to? So that's why we go to the gravesite. It's not because we think they're there, but we
Right.
have nothing that we can offer or give except
Right.
that.
Well, and I will tell you that as a mom, they always have to have flowers that don't look sun bleached. I feel like, or their Jim will shine their gravestone. So as parents, we feel like we're still doing something for the boys
Still taking.
because we can't do anything else.
Mhm.
So that's my if I go there and they've blown out of the vase, or I just, it's got to have flowers.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, and where Christy is, it's desert, so it's all dirt.
Yes.
Ugh. And so,
Yeah.
yes, Reed is way more particular about it even than I am. I'm really good with like brushing it off and I pour water over it just because of where she's at.
Right.
And so like trying to get all the stuff off, but like Reed sits down with a fine tooth comb type of thing. He wants every
Jim
little
too.
gravel out of
Mm.
it and away from it and for it to be polished and that kind of thing.
See, that's the difference between a mom and a dad. They're I totally get it. I'm more about the flowers, and
Yes,
they're more about how it looks,
yeah,
as far as a stone. I get it. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah. Yeah, but how much would it mean if you had somebody, friends or family say, "Hey, next time you go out there, can I come with you?"
Yep.
We need to do
Absolutely.
that for each other because it means something. It's the same thing as being able to share pictures on social media of
Yeah.
your grandbabies or your children and their accomplishments, things like that. It's the same thing for us when you come with us. Even if it's uncomfortable for you and you don't know what to say, just go with us.
Right.
I don't know about you. I don't lose it. I mean, sometimes I get emotional, and I'll cry a little bit. I mean, it is what it is, but it's not like this.
It's not like it was in the beginning.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's it's not like you're gonna have to pick me up and like put
Correct.
me back together. Just come with, see,
Right.
see where she's at.
And
Um,
don't be afraid to tell me if you go alone to see them. I
yes,
would love to know
yes,
if somebody visits my sons.
yes, 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 yes.
Don't just leave a card. Like, I got a card one time. I have no idea who it's from. No idea. A card, and they obviously knew the boys, just by what was in the card. I'd love to thank that person. I have
Yes.
no idea who it was.
I remember I feel kind of lucky about it. So because of where Christy's at, in order to get to Christy, I have to pass the boys first. And I remember
Yes.
sending you a text one day because every day when I used to work in North Scottsdale, I would pass both exits for both
Right.
places, first the boys and then her exit. And I remember texting one day and say, I liked it because both places were on my mind every day, so I could have a quick memory of it, of the
Mhm.
situation, of them as humans, and just a quick prayer too for you,
Right.
for them,
I
and that
appreciate
kind of
that.
thing. Just offering that. Now I don't, except for because I don't travel that side.
Right.
Except for if I'm going to see her, then I always pass the boys, and I've had to show Reed because luckily they're by that tower thing, so they're easy
Yeah.
to find.
Yes, they are. What I was going to say that I finally remembered, and I think this bothers me probably more than anything, is if I put a picture on Facebook or whatever, Instagram or whatever you want to say, I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm past that. I'm past the sympathy, but don't think that's why I'm posting something. I don't need to. It's okay if you do, but I don't need to hear I'm so sorry or whatever. Just acknowledge my son, whichever one. And I'm not crying for help. I promise you I'm not crying for help.
Yes, we just want to see them or say something about them. It's just like all the other parents who get to talk about their kid graduating college or
Yes,
they just got
absolutely.
engaged or
Yeah,
oh, they bought a house.
yeah.
And we can't do that. So all we can do is post that beautiful picture that makes us smile. And
Yes.
again, I totally agree. I try to be so like when you'll post one, especially as it's around their anniversary or even their birthday.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad you said that because I've often wondered, and I should have asked, you know that I know no words need to be said. So that's why I just
Right.
do a heart or a heart with a hug.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because I feel ya. I feel ya.
Hmm. Hmm.
There are no words.
No.
And yeah, there's nothing needs to be said. And sometimes you actually take away from the meaning of what we've posted
Right.
if you have to if you're thinking to add words. Um, and so it's just one of those, it's not to shame people who don't know because I'm so glad that we are a smaller club.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want somebody else to go through this, uh,
Right.
but I do want them to know that what they say and do has impact. I remember, so in my old life, Christy was a very twice a year kind of thing was really all that was welcomed to speak of
Mhm.
her. My ex just was not into it because she wasn't his, and his whole perspective and all that was don't live in the past. And so,
Okay.
anyways, when Christy's dad started with a band, and he had wrote a song for Christy many, 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 many years ago.
Yes,
He
I
started
remember that.
performing it.
Hmm.
Well, so I did have eyebrows raised as I got braver towards the end of that marriage, to start saying enough is enough. Like this isn't okay with me, and just wanting to honor her. And
Right.
um, I wanted him to go with. And I can remember as I got braver, and part of it was because I read different books. Part of it was from counseling. I had started going to a counselor, and there was the whole thing of having to give myself permission to say, listen, she might have died, but I am still her mom. As long as there's breath in my body, no matter what, Christy will always be my daughter. And I
That's
have
right.
the right to say her name, talk about her, and want to honor her. And the only
Hmm.
way I had available at the time, aside from going to a graveside, was these shows that her dad would do. And so, anyways, I had some people that didn't understand it, and they were some people from my church at the time who um, eyebrows started to be raised, even though my ex was always invited with me and friends were always invited with me. And most all the time, I never ever went to a show alone. I always had
Hmm.
company with me. Um, People still raised eyebrows and had this conversation. I remember this one person I had a conversation with who had many children. And essentially they decided to say you should be over this by now and living in
Oh,
the present, not the past, and are going to these shows necessary?
oh my goodness.
And so I said, how about this? Why don't you go home, choose any child, I don't care which one because they had many, take all their pictures down, send
Hmm.
them to be with family, and
Right.
nobody talks about that child for a month. Nobody. And I
Hmm.
just want you to tell me what that feels like,
Hmm.
because you
That's
actually will go through a craving. Our the mom in us just craves the ability to acknowledge.
right.
Even
And I feel like, I'm sorry.
no, you're
I
fine.
was going to say, I feel like losing two sons, my youngest and my middle, our whole family dynamics changed. I felt like from everything I did the first 19 or 27 years, I don't feel like was for nothing,
Mhm.
but it's not how I thought it was going to turn out to be. So, because it changed our family dynamics, don't tell us that, it's okay. Uh, that even though it's been so many years, that, you still mourn them. You still mourn them.
Right. Um,
Was that off subject, Connie? I think it was.
no, it's absolutely not. It does shift everything. Like, you guys were a family of five.
Hmm.
You are again, or still a family of five, because luckily you've got, the Chris's
Deacon.
family and Deegan and
Hmm.
Janelle. And so you are a family of five, but you're supposed to be a family of more than that.
Absolutely.
And that kind of thing. And so, yes, while you're still technically a family of five, it's a different kind of family of five. Christmases will always feel and sound and look different,
Hmm.
because there's two missing. No matter how great life is and how happy and successful and wonderful and beautiful and all of the fabulous things that our life is,
Right.
after death, there's still something missing. And that's allowed. It's allowed. The loss is allowed to be felt, that there's something missing. And I think people really need to understand that and know, um, we will grieve them until our last breath.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And again, I second what you said. That's not a cry for help to say that.
Mm-mm.
Um,
No.
It's just our, people post pictures of their food if they think they made a fabulous meal. If we can post pictures of food that we're eating,
Right.
fine, and that's normal. Nobody's thinking we have to
Right.
cry for help of any kind. Me finding a beautiful picture of my kid, or just maybe I have her on my mind that day, and I want to just share a picture of her, or I want to say her name, or I would love for somebody to ask me about her. That's just me being a mom.
Right. And did you feel, maybe because Christy was younger, but when I see their peers getting married and having children and buying homes, and because that's what we raised them to do, and that's what they were supposed to do, or their cousins, which you have many girls in your family, get married, and you know we don't get that. We It makes you realize how much you're missing, really.
Yes. And for me, so because my niece, Carrie's oldest, is just above her, and Christy are
Right.
only a couple months apart, I am always reminded of milestones that I'm
Sure.
not getting. And what also hurts a lot is all of my sisters and siblings have all had little girls since I
Yeah.
lost mine.
Yes.
I never got another one. So when I found out I was pregnant with a girl, you start dreaming of or thinking of all of the things, the fun stuff of
Sure.
doing their hair and the cute dresses and the parties and all that stuff. And
Mm.
and then as they get older, the mommy daughter days and spa days and prom dresses and wedding dresses and all of
Mhm.
those things. And I only have boys. And while
Right.
I do have a stepdaughter, she has her own mother.
Sure.
And I know that there will be a part of it that I get included in, but it's not the same.
It's not the same,
It's
no.
not the same. And so I'm always very aware of
Me too.
what I am not going to get to experience. And that's the other thing. So because I'm always very aware of what I'm not going to experience, for all of my siblings that do have that, I love when they include me in on certain things,
Yes.
so that I can experience it some.
That's very nice of you. That's the kind and the loving thing to do, is to include you.
Yeah. Um, yeah. There's more I could say on that, but it's a hard one. It's a hard one with family, especially just because everybody's got their own emotions on stuff.
Right.
And so it's really a place of people needing to go beyond themselves, though.
Mhm.
That's the most
They
helpful.
just don't know the depth of the pain. They
Yeah.
just don't know.
Uh, will you ever forget the day? I mean, it's a dumb question even asking, but I mean, I can remember every feeling, every thought that raced through my brain. Um, and I can remember being at the hospital when I finally got the news, like everything felt like it slowed down.
Mhm.
Those are
I
things.
was not in the world. I was outside of myself.
Yes.
That's the way I felt.
Yes. And you're just
Mhm.
like, it's so not supposed to happen like that.
Right.
And so your body doesn't really actually know how to feel. I've read before, where people say when, you lose a spouse, you're a widow. When you lose a parent, you're an orphan, all that other stuff, but they don't have
Right.
a term or a name for it for when you've buried a child. And it's so true. It's because it's not supposed to be this way. A
Right.
parent would lay their life down for their kid,
Oh, absolutely.
without hesitation in an instant.
Mhm.
It's just, especially us moms, not to take away from the dads, because dads are warriors as well, just in a different way.
Mhm.
Um, but without question or doubt, like, give me an option or whatever, take my breath.
Yes, absolutely.
And so then it's almost as if they always keep telling you, or you're losing them all over again when you live in a world by yourself in it,
Mhm.
because people either don't know how to be
Mhm.
with you in it, or they choose to not be. I think there's some people that choose, like, they just don't want to go there. and all that kind of stuff. And so it kind of is almost like a repeated infliction of pain to you as the parent, where you're like, didn't they matter? And that's,
right.
for me, that's what it feels like in a sense, is didn't they matter? They had to have mattered.
Right.
And the other thing is when we first get that news of their death, everybody shows up, right?
Right. Yes.
And what is it, like 2 or 3 weeks and all of a sudden it's gone?
Yes.
So you get used to these people being there, and it's
The
not
comfort.
necessarily that they're comforting you with words, it's just their presence. Because how empty can a world feel when all of a sudden your child is no longer living in it?
Oh, it's pretty bad.
So
Not
you
gonna
meet
lie.
the people, but all of a sudden they disappear too.
Right.
And you're just like, what am I doing? It's hard. It's hard to breathe. It's hard to take care of yourself. Like, you just need that other human.
Right. You go through the motions, and that's about it.
Yes.
Yeah,
And they just leave you there like you're supposed to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're not. And so I think that we can help each other heal. We can help each other deal so much better if we are aware. And I don't know why people aren't talking about it. And if they are, Christy's been gone 26 years. I've never heard anybody say this stuff, but I can remember being angry, so angry when people would come up to me and be like, I'm so sorry. I can only imagine what you're going through, or I know how hard it feels. We lost our dog after 17 years. I love my dogs. They're spoiled rotten, but let me tell you. Or, anyways, I don't want to ridicule it too much, but sometimes people need to think before they speak.
And I'm guilty of it too. I mean, because sometimes you just, your mouth speaks before your brain.
Well, and there's that part of you that thinks you're supposed to say something too, right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why we feel that way. Like, we feel like we're supposed to comfort and that words are comforting, but the likelihood of the words actually being comforting are not.
Exactly.
Comforting words usually do not happen until much further into the grief process.
Right.
In the beginning, when we're like just trying to figure out how to draw breath, your words are not helping, I promise. That's no offense to people. That's just facts. Later on, as we've started processing and learning how to get up and feed ourselves and shower and get through a day and have a holiday or an anniversary or whatever since they've been gone, that's when your words are comforting, especially like, you're doing really good. Or I don't know how you do it. Or something kind about our kid or whatever. And so ultimately, my goal is that people would understand what grief is, especially for a parent. Not all grief is created equal.
No.
And I can promise you, if a mom or a dad is feeding themselves, going to work, cleaning their house, taking care of themselves, and being a part of society, we are dealing. I promise you, we are dealing. As long as we're not locked in a dark room.
Never felt that way. Never felt.
And please don't tell us how to move through it. We're doing it.
That's right.
We are doing it.
Our best.
So anything that you can think of?
Let me look at my notes real quick.
The hardest part is the first year, don't you think? Like, as far as that.
Well, it's funny, Connie, because with Shane passing a year and a half after Kyle, I felt like I was just semi-becoming normal, and then bam. And then it wasn't like the first time.
No.
It was more like, I've been through this. I can do it. Just do the same service as Kyle. I was almost rude.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to be, but that was the disbelief in me. Like, really? Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Let me look at my notes here.
One of the things I think of all the time when I just want to be in this place of giving everything the finger is I have to pull my head out of my butt and be like, no, I want to do it right. I want to do it
Right.
right. So instead of snapping at everybody and telling them what I actually really think, let me find words to actually express it and educate you in a better way. Because one day it will be my time to draw my last breath. And when I stand before God, not to hurry up and get through all the process of introduction with Him or whatever it's like when we stand before God, but my whole human side of me right now, this side of heaven, thinks on the other side of Him is going to be her.
It's funny because you say that. I wrote down one that it's Roman 8:18. I consider the suffering now, it doesn't compare to the glory to come.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really when people say, how do you do it? I say, because I'm going to see him again.
Yes, yes, yes.
And that's always my answer. Whether you're a believer or not, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to see him again. And I'm going to make sure. I have a poem too somewhere where you want to, it's called Ask My Mom, Is This a Good Time to Do It?
Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of small print, so bear with me. This is a different one. I had never heard of it because I'm sure like you read the same poems, you read the same grief notes, etc. Well, this one was different, and it's called Ask My Mom. My mom, she tells a lot of lies she never did before, but from now until the day she dies, she'll tell a whole lot more. Ask my mom how she is, and because she can't explain, she will tell you a little lie because she cannot describe the pain. Ask my mom how she is, she'll say, I'm all right. If that's the truth, then you tell me, why does she cry each night? I'm sorry, I blew that one. Ask my mom how she is. She seems to cope so well. She doesn't have a choice, you see, nor any strength to yell. Ask my mom how she is. I'm fine. I'm well. I'm coping. For God's sake, Mom, just tell the truth. Just tell them your heart is breaking. She'll love me all her life. I loved her all of mine. But if you ask her how she is, she'll lie and say she's fine. I am here in heaven now. I cannot hug you from here. If she lies to you, don't listen. Hug her, hold her dear. I'm sorry, hold her near. On the day we meet again, I smile and I'll be bold. I say, you're lucky, Mom, to get in here with all the lies you told. Is that just precious or what? I had never heard that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. But it's literally what I think of because I get told all the time how strong I am, which I
we
think
are because we're
you
here.
have to be, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to be just to decide to draw another breath. It takes strength repeatedly over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there is joy. I love my life.
Me too.
I love my life. I miss her. I love my life. But I do. And I just recently spoke of this also. I want to do it right on this side of eternity.
Absolutely.
Because
yep.
on that side, I do know she is there. And I do know that while I will be so overwhelmed, I can't even comprehend the emotions I'll have just standing before Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I want to believe that we know each other up there. Oh. And the thought of, I'm excited, yes, to see my dad, other family members, my grandmother, things like that. But let me tell you, the idea of seeing her and getting to touch her or hold her, hug her, hear her voice, whatever it is that we look like up there. Oh my gosh, I will do it so to the best of my ability down here because I want to get there.
You know, funny, Connie, I always said, I can't wait to get to heaven to see my boys. And about 4 years into it, I went, oh dear, I can't wait to get to heaven and see my boys being held. I can't even say it. That's, in other words, I'm putting them first, and that was wrong of me. But their maker, on the other hand, that's why, I want to see them in his arms.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Hold on.
But selfish us, we think of our loss. I can't wait to
But
get
you
to
know
heaven.
what the greatest gift is that God gave up his own.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows what
Yeah.
that thought and feeling is him. And I'm so grateful for that. As hard as faith is to understand at times and just get things into perspective and follow things of what you can't see and all of that other stuff, I think
It's faith alone.
yes. And as a parent, and just that commonality of that he gets it, makes it when we do have those thoughts of just being hurt, angry, frustrated, selfish, whatever it is, he gets it. Like you can have that thought freely and not feel judged in it, and just be like, okay, like it's better if you express it and say it anyways, because he knows all of your thoughts. And so to just get it out there, that one rocked me a little. So
it reminded me of this. They did not leave your life. I moved them, God. It's like, because they're with him.
yeah. Well, and
Not
that
me.
also helps get that message understood for us. If in a world with others, you have that understanding of,
Yeah.
please allow us to talk about them without judgment. Please ask us questions about them. Please visit their gravesite or look at our pictures without pitying us. Just, understand it's as if, and again, if we're drawing breath and taking showers and feeding ourselves and all that stuff, we're really doing well. We are doing well. So just know that we are okay. Don't think we're not. But and you know what? Truthfully, I think if other people were to say to us, especially family members that are close, if they were to say, I'm having a hard day. I got the boys on my brain, or I've got Kyle on my brain a lot today, or Shane on my brain, Christy, whatever. Are you okay if I talk to you about that?
That's a good idea. I never thought of that.
Can you imagine?
Mm-mm.
Can you imagine getting to be the mom who offers comfort to somebody who's missing our kid?
Well, that's the only reason I'm doing this, because you know me, I'm a little bit of an introvert. Well, not really, but anyway,
Our family is on certain things. We are definitely introverted on certain things and extroverted on others.
Yes. Whenever I am off my rocker and say something, I say, that was Shane, that wasn't me. I mean, really bad. But no, if I can help one person, whether it be any spectrum of whether it be picking the place to go, the ceremony, whatever, or just them coping, I would help in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Does anniversaries make you angry?
No. Do you know, Connie, and I said this to Erin, my sister, I said, I've never been angry at God. I've never been angry that I lost my boys. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I will tell you, when we got the phone call at 5:30 in the morning on Shane, my Bible was sitting on my nightstand, and I picked it up and I wanted to throw it, but I didn't. I put it down. That was my anger. I'm not a person that, I probably hold more in than I should, but I think Deegan's calling. I lost my thought. Anyway, that I'm not that way. I'm grateful they're whole. I'm grateful they're healthy. I'm grateful boy, do I miss them. Not gonna lie.
I got angry definitely the first few months. Holy cow, I was angry. I don't believe been angry at God. I was angry at God
No.
in the beginning. I have not been angry at God in all of these years since,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it was within a couple of months of her being gone that I realized, because I remember saying it, even holding her at the hospital, as long as there's breath in my body, because I
Yes.
knew that I needed the next second to draw in a breath, that the only way I was surviving was God. But I also remember thinking that he knew I was going to be angry. Like it was okay. You know what I
Uh,
mean? Like get angry. And it wasn't that I was angry punching a wall or screaming or anything like that. I was just mad
Releasing.
in my
Mm-hmm.
spirit at him. Like, why would you do this? Like, because
Well,
of
yeah.
abandonment issues my whole life, or just disconnect of so many things, like she was mine.
Right.
And there was a part at the very beginning where I was like, why did you take her from me?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
See, I
and
just didn't do that. And I don't know if it was the circumstances with Shane. With Shane, I actually told God because we fought for, addiction a long time. And he was clean. And I thought, well, with Kyle passing, it's going to hurt him or help him.
her anniversary is hard for me. Not
Yeah.
as hard. So it's so funny. Not funny, haha, but just, because
Mm-hmm.
God is so great. I used to say, I hate this day. August
Mm-hmm.
6th, I hate this day.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was the first time I could say, I'm not fond of this day, but I don't hate this day anymore. And it's because of when you live a life of surrender to God, where you're willing to walk through all of the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Mm-hmm.
and you really lean into him in all things, and you just trust that his ways are better and he's got a plan even in this as well. Not that he took her from me, but that he's got a plan even in her death for my life and hers. And when you just hold on to that and believe in that, he shows up. And sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
takes a long time.
True.
But in other stories that I've shared some parts of, where Christy passed is the hospital that Reed lived.
Isn't that crazy? Oh
And
my God.
34 days.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so there was a whole process of stuff that God definitely did full circle in me,
Absolutely, he
that
did.
I had to go through each single day that I would show
Mm-hmm.
up while he was there. But in her death, gave me understanding. It gave me bravery. It gave me, I think it gave me a very deeper personal knowledge of leaning into God in prayer, that helped me during
Mm-hmm.
that time. And I do think about it. If I hadn't gone through that, what would my experience have been with what Reed's stunt was last year?
Sure. I could see where you would do that.
And so I now no longer hate that day, because I see even more purpose in her life, in also her death, by teaching me, as hard as it's been and as much as I miss her and I wish, and I would think, God, couldn't you have taught me this without that? But I do find it and say, well, this is what I have. This is what the knowledge is I have to draw off of. And I'm so
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that, because when it came down to it, again, I'll say it as long as there's breath in my body. The greatest compliment I've ever been given is the day of Reed's heart attack, when he was in that first emergency surgery and people were showing up and they didn't want to disturb me because I was in worship.
Oh.
And I'm so proud that that's who I am, and that that's what I got from her death.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also sit there and think of how people just invaded heaven with me during that time. And I think, who else? Because when we're in worship here, they're also in worship up there. So as the
Absolutely.
lesson of Christy's death was there upon me, that I was reflecting and able to know what moment by moment was sort of going to feel like, because death of a child and death of a spouse is different. But when I think of while I was in worship engaging, because I knew I wanted God to spare Reed's life, but I also knew the only way I was getting through the next thing, just like when I was holding her at the hospital, was as long as there's breath in my body, God give me breath in my body to get me through the next second. I think I know how much my dad loved me. I know how much my grandmother loved me, and also loves Reed and all that other stuff. So while I was engaging in worship and calling on that, were they joining in worship? Because scripture says we join with the angels, right? So I hope I made her proud. I hope I make.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
I'm so grateful that somebody saw that and was able to tell me that, because it's keep going, and
right.
I no longer hate her day of death. I'm not fond of it. It's not my favorite day, but I do walk through it in a different kind of appreciation than what I've ever had before. I make sure that on her birthdays, I celebrate her life. She's here 2.5 years and I want to celebrate it. So I go out there to the cemetery and I post pictures of her on social media because it's all that I have to do. And I sing her happy birthday, and I
just
remember
talk to her.
I remember how spunky she was here on Earth, and I'm sure that she's doing some sort of type of thing up there, even though eternity is all one day there type of thing. You know what I mean? I'm sure that she has no clue that she's had this many birthdays since type of thing. Like, it doesn't mean anything to her as much as it does to us here. But I mean, I try to celebrate the day of her birth, and I just allow myself to go through the feelings the day of her death.
It's funny with me, and I won't even realize it. Like a week before, I'm weepy, I'm this, I'm that. But the day of, for some reason, I'm over that then. And it's not because I'm not sad. It just, I don't know why. I really don't know why.
It's like an internal clock, right?
Like, I think so.
And there'll be times where I'm just irritable or very emotional or whatever, and you're like, what the heck is wrong? And then somehow you see a calendar or something will kick in, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's why. And I don't know if you're like this at all. I'm the same. The day of, I'm not in a puddle on the floor. The day of, it's kind of like I'm over it. For lack of a better word, I've just got the ability to deal with the day.
To get through
but
it,
prior to, and especially the day before, I know that at nighttime I'm sitting there and I go back and forth in this feeling of, I don't want it to be bedtime, because then I have to face tomorrow, right? And on the opposite side of that, at the very same time, you're thinking, just get it over with. Just get it over with. I want to go to bed so I can get up and just face tomorrow. And it's such a back and forth pool. Like, I don't want to go there. I got to just get it over with. I don't want it. And that's how it is leading up to it. And then you get to the day and you're like, it's not as bad as I thought. Even though anniversaries, there is the emotional acknowledgement of another year without her, the further away you are from when they were. And that, I think, is the hardest.
I have to say, with Kyle's headstone, we were dumb. Somebody should have guided us. We bought a huge headstone. One of Kyle's friends paid the majority of it for it because they're not cheap. At the time, 11 years ago, it was like $3,000. So anyway, we put a picture of Kyle, the most recent one we had, on the headstone with a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, and as years went by, let me back up. And so then when Shane passed, we took that headstone, and it's buried in Kelly's yard somewhere because I couldn't deal with it. We didn't get a picture with both of them because as years went by, I'd see that picture of I would think of that picture of Kyle in my mind on the headstone, and I'd think it made me realize how long it's been. Because obviously he still doesn't look, he wouldn't still look like that. So we chose with the second one not to do a picture of them just for that reason. Couldn't handle that. Couldn't handle that.
It's hard with those always in your face reminders. As pleasant as they are, sometimes they're also hard.
Yes.
And one of the things I think of, so for this, I just thought of this, you saying that, where we say people talk to us about our kids, ask us questions because we want you to.
Yes.
And that thought of where people will think, well, I don't want to bring them up because I don't want to hurt them or whatever. To give permission and understanding to people that we will definitely, you'll be able to read our cues if it's not a good time for us. For example, if somebody's trying to talk about your kid and it's just not good for you, we're not going to really further engage. We'll just,
you could tell.
You're just going to tell, like, for example, if somebody was to say, oh, I went by the graveside and it's not a good time for you, your response would likely be, that's nice. Or, oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Yes.
But you're not going to be like, oh, how was it? You know, there's a difference. There's a difference in what our communication is going to be. So people need to be able to read it. Like, first of all, have thick skin and just be willing to know that
it's not personal.
It's not personal. So please bring it up and or bring them up. And if it's not a good time for us, you're going to be able to tell, but have thick skin. Don't get mad that we hurt your feelings when you wanted to talk to us about our kid. Like, sometimes it's just a hard day. And yes, we understand that sounds very bipolar in a sense of we want you to talk to us about them, but sometimes might not be good. But just be brave enough to try. Be brave enough to try, and to try more than once. Don't 20 years from now be like, well, once back in 1997, I tried to and you didn't receive it well, so I didn't think I could. Do it often, because some days are going to be great for us and some days are not. But you'll know, because if it's a good day and you say, oh, I went by the graveside today, we're going to be like, yeah, that's so great. What was it like? Oh, thank you for doing that, or whatever. Like, we're going to engage that conversation. We're going to have questions.
You bet.
Other times we're going to be like, that was nice. And you need to be able to have common sense enough to read that and understand that. But do it often and do it more. Okay. Well, thank you for having this hard conversation.
Sure.